Welcome to Pause for the Truth, where you can sit back, relax, and hear an honest dialogue about health, wealth, legal, and social issues. The hosts are Dr. Rogers Kane, family practice physician, and Jocelyn Turner, health education consultant, with co hosts from the Northeast Florida Medical Society and its foundation. Stay tuned for the truth about matters affecting you and your family. We're here to tell you what's really going on and why. Good evening and welcome to Pause for the Truth. I am your co host, Jocelyn Turner. It's such a beautiful day in Northeast Florida. I hope wherever you're tuning in, that your day is going lovely because I have had a mighty fine day. And of course, I can't do this alone. Joining me as my co host is Dr. Rogers Kane. How are you doing this evening, Dr. Kane?
I am doing just fine. Better enjoy the day while you can because the night is bringing it's bringing some thunderstorms and a lot of rain.
I heard, but the vegetation appreciates that. How about that?
Well, I know my pollination appreciate that too. All that pollen there. Maybe I can get some rinse down that sewer.
Is that an issue, Dr. Kane, this time of year for a lot of people, pollen?
Yeah, especially those with asthma. I had two or three in the clinic today. Ready to one of them. I was just about ready to ship her to the hospital if it wasn't for her insistence that she really doesn't want to take that ride on that EMT wagon. I can't make her, but she refused to go. So I'm hoping tomorrow I can call all kind of names, but she'll be there to hear. So,
Oh wow, wow,
and even
that's
yours
something.
truly, I got asthma and it affects me. I've been noticing a lot of wheezing in the past few days.
And see, my selfishness only thinks about the dust that it covers my black vehicle,
Right.
right? Never thinking that folks who inhale that, they unfortunately experience some serious health effects from it.
Yeah, it can set those asthmatics right off, not to mention those with sinus problems. That can be severe in terms of discomfort most of the time. A lot of discomfort, headaches and congestion. But at least I can run inside in my house, and which kind of leads into the subject matter. Not everybody can do that. So
Additional question, Dr. Kane, before we get on with tonight's topic. On that note, do
mhm.
when we were all during the COVID era, everybody was wearing masks. I've seen some people who've said that they've been wearing their mask because of the
Pop.
pollen,
Yep.
and it helps them. Do you encourage people to do that when they're outdoors?
I encourage them to do it. If it can give them some relief, I encourage them to do it. I'm still using masks in my clinics, not so much that I'm mainly because I have much older population, and I'm not people that come in just before them may be sick with something, and so I avoid a lot of intra-clinic transmission of diseases, infectious
Mhm.
diseases. So it works for us in our clinic. The patients don't mind. We supply them with some masks, but yes, it does help to some degree filter out some of the pollen.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kane. Now we'll get on with tonight's show. Coming from behind the
Well,
scene
hold on,
before
just
we
you're not
before
going to
we
say anything to me.
oh no, I'm about to say that. Before getting to our special guest, I would like to acknowledge our feisty behind the scenes technology guru, Tyrone Jackson, who comes from behind the scene, as you see, more often than not. How are you doing this evening, Tyrone?
I am doing wonderful. I am doing wonderful.
You have
Thank
to
you
excuse him,
for
Miss
having
Turner. You have to excuse him. He ain't taking his medicine today. I forgot to drop it off.
Oh, I know. So we have a someone who I just really admire. I don't think I've ever told him that. We actually met in college back in the day, and I tell you what, he has had such an amazing career. And when you have an amazing career, some folk just let that do. Well, not this guy. He sees a need in the community and say, I can't just sit back and ignore this, go home to my home, and not do something about this. So, for those of you who don't know him, introducing him to you for the first time, and for those of you who do, then you already know what a passionate guy he is, and that is none other than attorney A.W. Al Barlow. How you doing this evening? I call him Alvin.
Yeah, just don't call me late for dinner. No,
Especially when it's good.
all is well. I have no complaints, and I'm really, you know, thankful and blessed that you all are giving me an opportunity to, share some very important information that people need to really understand. So I appreciate the opportunity to serve.
And thank you. I do have to ask you, and I kind of spoke for you, but I would like to ask you, as we talk about the topic of homelessness in Jacksonville, what made you, how has this become such a passion for you, and for you to be such a wonderful advocate for people who are unhoused? How did you get into this space, or what made
Well,
you?
really, what happened? This is what happened, honestly, and we have a website, Help and Housing for Homeless.com. And as a matter of fact, Ken Amaro, before he became a city councilman, he interviewed me, and so that video from the show they had on the news. But what happened to me was in December of 2020, I hid a Christmas gift at my law office. My wife likes to snoop around the house, so I hid a Christmas gift at my office. And so when Christmas Eve came, it was dark. It was when it got dark, I went downtown to get the gift, right? So it was raining, it was cold, Christmas Eve 2020. And so when I got off 95 and I hit Jefferson and Union, I was on Union, hit Jefferson, and there was like this little voice that looked to the right. And so I looked to the right and I saw homeless people just like shivering, standing up. And it's like a sword. It's like somebody stuck me in the heart. And so I went to my office, which is, half a block away, went in, got the gift. When I turned to go left on Union, because it's one-way street, I came up the Broad Street and I looked to my left. And there was another group of people, the same situation, it just bothered me all the way back home. So I live out by the airport. And so, I was just bothered all the way back home. And so our daughter was in college at the time in Miami, but she was home for Christmas. So we had this tradition at Christmas morning, we wake up, go in the living room, pray, and then open gifts. So after we prayed, they were opening gifts. And it's just, man, I just lost it. I just started crying. My wife's like, what's wrong? My daughter's like, what's wrong? And I had not cried like that since I was a child. So once I composed myself, I told them, I can't get these homeless people off my mind. And so after I calmed down and everything, God spoke to me and he said, you know what to do. He said, you take $500 of your own money, you go to Winn-Dixie and buy them some gift cards and go up there and give them out. So I did that, right? And so I was walking back across the street to my office. Then God spoke to me again. He said, now go on social media, go on Facebook and ask your friends to help you. And I'm like, come on, God, I don't want to be begging people for money. He said, now you said you want to help them, right? So I said, yes, sir. So I got on Facebook reluctantly and my friends started sending money from all over the nation, from Hawaii. you name it, it was sending. So that's how I started. So from there, I've incorporated a nonprofit corporation, 501c4, and that's how it really started. It was really about knowing this. It's but by the grace of God that I'm not homeless. I know that.
Amen.
Anybody can be homeless. That's what people don't understand. It takes one tragedy, you're homeless. I've seen it many a time. So that's how it really started.
And I'm glad you said that, because Dr. Kane has spoken to that point in terms of, patients, without talking about a specific patient, but how patients who are diagnosed with chronic health conditions, and for whatever reason, they may not be able to work anymore,
Oh, yeah.
or, and then all of a sudden, and then now, I'm sure, and it's like this all over the country, because I've spoken to friends in other places. Rent is just getting ridiculous. And the places that people are renting are not worth the money. I mean, if you're going to pay hundreds, thousands of dollars for rent, then you expect to be in a decent place. But these places, they're not that way. And one thing that gets me, I'm going to call you Attorney Barlow now, because I have to ask the question, how is it that we allow people from other, and I'm nothing against anybody else, I'm not bashing, but if you don't live in a community, how do you really have a vested interest in it? And therefore, if you live somewhere else, you charge whatever you want for that rental property. And if people cannot afford it, so if all of these people who are buying up properties, mostly in underserved communities, calling, preying on people, offering to pay them cash money, but then will turn around and raise the double the rent. And these folks are not being, that seems to be so illegal to me.
Well, let me say it like this. Unfortunately, well, it's not illegal, but if this is a national issue, because I saw a story on, I think it was 60 Minutes. There's a company out of Canada. They buy like 30 some thousand houses a month. I get a call. I get calls every week asking me if I want to sell my house, right? And so what I paid for that, what I was paying for that house per month when I first bought it in 2005, they're renting for twice that now. And I was buying a house. Amen.
Mm-hmm.
So what has happened is corporations have decided to buy properties as a profit modality, basically. So, and what they were saying on 60 Minutes is once they buy these properties, they will not be going back on the market. And what it does for the consumer is very difficult to buy. If you find a house, what the consumers are saying is, listen, I was thinking about it and it was purchased. I didn't get a chance to even put a bid on it. And so what's happening is I want Tyrone to get Miss Betty's video ready. And so I'm going to show you somebody that this happened to. And a lot of times what happens is people think that homeless people are just on drugs and alcohol, they criminals. That's true. Some of them are. But this is what people don't know, because I'm in the weeds with them. I know them personally. I minister to them, cry with them, pray over them and everything else. Some of these people were just regular people, regular citizens, retirees. This lady was retired, paying $250 for a house that somebody let her have. This guy sold the house to one of these multinational corporations. They raised, I think, her rent to about $850 from $250. She couldn't pay it, so they put her out. I met this lady. She's sleeping on the sidewalk. This lady could be my grandmother. So if Tyrone can play that video, it's very, very short. I meet her when I first started helping people. You'll see what kind of these are the homeless people that are on the streets of Jacksonville and all over the country right now.
You can go. I'm ready. What you want to say? What's your name?
Eddie.
Are you homeless?
Yes, sir, for 2 years.
Where do you live?
On the sidewalk. Sleep on the sidewalk.
On Jefferson? Right over there?
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you just get from me?
Sleeping bag.
And what else? A $20 gift card.
Yes, $20 gift card for Hardee's.
Okay. So did you want to say anything to the people who donated?
Yeah, I do. I want to tell you, I thank them very much, and you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I thank you.
And come Monday, I'm going to give you a tent that's coming from Amazon. So I'll be looking for you,
Yes, sir.
Miss Betty, on Monday. Okay?
Yeah, I'll be right out.
All right. You have a blessing.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Miss Betty, how did you become homeless?
Oh, Ned sold my house. I had been living in it 4 or 5 years, and he sold it for money.
And so you've been homeless for 2 years. Okay. Are you going to be going with the city next week? Are they going to take? Why not? What happened?
I don't know, they didn't write me up.
They did.
I told my guy when they wrote me up, I was on the shop.
Oh, okay.
So I was on when the man come wrote me up.
Oh, okay. So you're going to go to Harvey's today and get you some food?
Yes, sir.
All right.
And give me some food to eat.
Yes, ma'am. You be blessed, Miss Betty, okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
And I love you and everybody that helped.
We love you too, Miss Betty. Have a blessing.
Uh-huh.
And be careful out there, okay?
Yes, sir. And
All right.
I love everybody and appreciate everything you done for me.
Yes, ma'am. Be blessed.
Yes, sir.
And so that's one kind of homeless person that's on the street all over, not just Jacksonville, all over. Everywhere I go, when we travel, I'm talking to homeless people and everything. A lot of them have the same problem. So this is what I found since I've been helping homeless people since January. I started January 15th, 2021. That was Martin Luther King's birthday. So what I find is there are some who most people think about, they're on drugs or they've been in criminality, or they're, sexual offenders or whatever. But that's not really the majority of them. Here's the majority of them are people who fell on hard times because of the pandemic. They lost jobs, or because of, like Dr. Kane said, some of them had medical emergencies and it just wiped them out. Okay. And so this is what happens, honestly. Some of these people who were not on drugs before, when they get homeless, they've never been homeless before. They meet strangers and everything, and they're crying and they're depressed. And some homeless expert will say, hey, let's just take a hit of this right here and you'll feel better. And some of them get instantly hooked, because some of the stuff is strong. So they become instant junkies. They've never had experience drinking alcohol, never had experience using drugs, especially those kind of drugs they're using now. Okay. And so they become drug addicts and alcoholics trying to cope with a problem that they never had to cope with. So one of the things I try to do is humanize these people, because what happens is, even with this legislation, I'm giving an update on what's going on. Florida has passed a draconian law that probably the vast majority of other states are going to follow. And the result is they're going to put people in concentration camps. I don't care what they call it. These are going to be homeless concentration camps. And when you look at the elected officials who talk about it, unfortunately, some of them from Jacksonville, greater Jacksonville area in Clay County, well, they talk about these people need drug treatment. A percentage of them do. But what they've done is they've classed all these people in the same category. That's why I like to show people like Miss Betty and to show you the real size of homelessness.
They can. I agree with you, Mr. Barlow. And as you said, that a lot of those people were not drug addicts before they hit the street. Those drugs can offer an escape mechanism temporarily from the reality. Okay, exactly. They have to come right back to what their situation is. But how many times have any of us on this, in our younger days especially, went out to have a good time, have a party because, go to a party, because it was a way of escaping the day-to-day. In my case, sometimes it was college and, or high school, but especially in college, it was a way of escaping the necessities of having to study all the time and so on and so on and so on. So that winds up being an escape mechanism for them. And like you say, they may get hooked on it, but just as easy, if you got them somewhere to stay, they may get unhooked on these drugs because they no longer have to escape the reality for which they're facing. I want to say one last thing. When people heard them say, she said Harvey's, not Hardee's, as in that gift card, so people don't think that you were giving out free burgers, that you were really trying to give them access to some healthy foods. I just want people that's my role in this.
Good point. Yeah, that was Harvey's grocery store on Union that used to be Winn-Dixie. Yeah, right. That's exactly correct.
All right. Well, now I decided to chime in on this here show is because I had an opportunity to talk with Attorney Barlow before as we was in the green room getting ready. And I have, I think, not such a unique opinion, but it's different from what I think the rest of you have. So my first question is, based on what you just said, what is wrong with the concentration camp?
This is what's wrong with the concentration camp. Okay, here's the reality of it. Jackson, and this is unique to Jacksonville right now, what I'm getting ready to tell you. Okay, Jacksonville gives hundreds of millions of dollars away to rich people. That's your my tax money, by the way, to get richer. So it's corporate welfare. And so my problem is, you're taking my hard-earned tax money, you're giving it to the Jaguars, you're giving it to these developers. They already got money. And don't get me wrong. If I'm a developer and I come in and I have a project that's going to cost me $30 million, but I got a city council that's stupid enough to give me $15 million, I'm gonna take it.
Yep.
Okay. So my point is, what I'm trying to get all I'm trying to get the city to do is look, reserve 5% of every dollar that you give to a rich person. That's my tax money. So I got a right to complain. And permanently house some homeless people. So here's the problem. Jacksonville can afford to permanently house homeless people. They're choosing not to do it. That's the problem I got. Why don't one of you city councilmen go sleep in a concentration camp for a week or so, see how that feels? We have the money as you can tell, this stuff is serious with me, man.
Well,
It's so serious that if I have my way, we're gonna sue the city of Jacksonville, bring them to their knees like they did Los Angeles. Okay, but what I'm saying is, they have the money to house these people permanently, and so people say, "Wait a minute, that's welfare." Yeah, it is welfare, but it's corporate welfare for the rich. You don't complain when the rich people are getting your tax money to get richer and richer. Okay, so all I'm saying is I want some of my tax money to be reserved to permanently house homeless people, because even with this new law that Florida just passed that's going to go into effect October 1st for the concentration camps, after 1 year, they put you back on the street. So it's a farce. It's really a farce.
But
It's not
that leads to an unanswered question for me. I understand your passion, but if I've heard you correctly, all you said is that we, the taxpayers, are allowing this to happen because we are not standing with you and others who are with you to insist that our tax dollars are spent in the manner that we agree to. Did I get that correct?
That's true, but I want to go one level deeper than that. That's true, but it's deeper than that. Here's the lowest common denominator. We have some lazy voters. We have some lackadaisical voters. We have people who do not understand what politics means. We have people who like people and they vote for them. Okay, I can like you and you can promise to do something, but guess what? If you get in office and you don't do it, as much as I like you, I'm gonna vote you out of office.
And you're gonna call them out. I love it.
That's right. I told Donna D, look, she called me. I was in Miami helping my daughter get a tire for a car or something. She called me on my cell phone. I need your help. I want your help. So and so. So I said, okay, listen, I'm gonna give it to you because there's nothing else out there. So I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt. So I'm gonna tell you, if you don't do what you say you're gonna do, I'm gonna turn against you like a mad dog. And I did it. So that's how you're supposed to treat these. When the voters set that kind of policy, and when politicians know you're not going to play around with them, they'll do what they need to do. But right now, especially in Jacksonville never holds their politicians accountable. Let me tell you something. I was in Atlanta one time studying for the Georgia bar. I'm licensed in Georgia too. And I saw something I'll never forget. When we were up there, way back in 1994, but it blew me away. I'm watching the 6 o'clock news. I'm up there for a week studying for the bar. And every night they had this story on the whites in Atlanta wanted to build a sewage plant on the black side of town and pump their sewage from the affluent side of town to the black side of town. And black people showed up in the droves. They said, listen, that's not going to happen. And they were pointing at them and said, let me tell you something right now. If you vote for this, I'm going to vote you out of office. I was like, man, I've never seen anything like that. Guess what? They didn't vote for it. They had spent money on it, but they reversed it. That's the kind of stuff we need to have in Jackson. But you know what? We're in such crapology in Jacksonville that people can come to your church and eat some chicken with you and you vote for them and you forget what they promise. You don't hold them accountable. So Brother Tyrone, you're right. But the lower level is that we need to first learn how to hold our elected officials accountable, and then everything will flow from there. But I agree with you.
I have a question. Let me ask you one quick question. When you mentioned the 5% set aside in terms of giving folks permanent housing, what exactly do you mean? That the city should build apartments or build homes or use existing properties that are abandoned? What kind of permanency situation are you referring to?
All of the above. All of the above. You have all of the above. You have all the options. You have raggedy buildings that, you can put some people to work. That's employment. You can hire some of these minority contractors and refurbish those houses with that money, put these people in. It's a raggedy building right out there on the corner of a Pearl and State Street. Used to be a task treatment for alternative street crimes. That's a building right there. They can renovate it. That raggedy building right there on the corner, right across the street from the Rich Theater. You can refurbish that building. They've never used that building. Okay. I remember what happened. A guy from Miami got a bunch of money for that building and almost got arrested for some shenanigans that went on. That building has never been used. So all of the above. And listen, 5% might sound like a little bit of money, but it's not, because They give hundreds of millions of dollars away. Watch how much money the Jaguars get. Now, the Jaguars is unique. I'm gonna show you why. Because I took the NAACP president up there with me. We met with the president of the Jaguars. I basically said, "Look, man, it's gonna be hard for you if you don't do something." So they partnered with us and gave us a grant. Okay, but I expect a lot more out of them. But at least they're doing. That's the only corporation that we sent 7 letters to different corporations. That's the only one responded. That's the only one that's partnering with the ministry that the corporation that I started with to help these homeless people.
If you're just tuning in, we're talking about Attorney Barlow is giving an update on the homeless situation. I call it crisis here in Jacksonville. If you have any questions, please post them, because if you don't know someone who's homeless, I promise you, you're going to soon, because there are folks who are renting properties and the landlords are doubling the rent, and folks are not able to continue to rent those places because, sadly, Alvin, people will say, well, I need to raise my rent because it's costing me more to keep the property maintained. However, what folks are not realizing is you are raising the rate of rent, but you're not raising paychecks and income at the same level. So to me, it seems to be illegal. I'm not an attorney, but it just seems it's definitely immoral.
And you said one thing, they're not even doing the maintenance. So
right.
They tell
Slumlords.
they want to have to raise it to handle the maintenance, but they're not doing any maintenance.
Yeah, I know someone who called somebody out. They said it's costing me more to manage the property, and the person said, but I've been in this property for 3 years and you have never come over here. Anything that needed to be done, I've been doing it. So you're lying when you're saying that it's costing you more to maintain the property, right? So it's just ridiculous. Go ahead, Dr. Kane.
Well, speaking of, concentration camps, and technically speaking of concentration camps, when you start looking at, it's not just the fact that somebody has somewhere to walk in, and I don't know how they're going to run the concentration camp. How, can the people leave, come and go like they want to? Obviously we're not supposed to be one of these militaristic states, but if people can come and go like they want to, which I advocate people should be able to come and go anywhere like they want to, you don't think about the rest, the broader effect of people, of the community, not just the people in that concentration camp. Because we had one time, a while back, we had some issues with TB. And the biggest sources of TB, tuberculosis, were the homeless. Well, now if you put them in a concentration camp, Tyrone, put them in a concentration camp, you think that TB is going to respect the boundaries of that concentration camp? It's going to come out within the community. And I just said TB. I can imagine if it was COVID or anything else or something more deadly. You think they're just going to respect the boundaries of that concentration camp? And now it comes out and starts to affect your families. And the first thing you know is, well, we need to get rid of these concentration camps because it is a seed,
breeding ground,
a breathing ground. Thank you, Ms. Turner. A breeding ground. Breeding ground. Mm-hmm. Yeah, breeding ground for multiple kind of diseases. If and just like Attorney Barlow said, if you bring in he said a sewer, but what about the sewer? What's going to be the sewer for that concentration camp?
But so then, in essence, you're saying though, and here's the thing that goes unsaid. Attorney Barlow is passionate and he's communicating this and he's doing all these things. But the part that goes unsaid is that the other people who are walking the streets, encountering and having to interact with homeless people, have a feeling about that than they do about their ineffective legislators.
Yeah,
right.
So they
want to say that part of it.
Right.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
they'll say, oh,
Free.
those poor
Free.
people. They'll pass by it every day and say, oh, those poor people. But are you calling people out on it? Your elected officials out on it, right? And people will, and I've heard some elected officials say, but this is a very complex problem that it's going to take more than just one legislation to make it change and to get better. But we're going to take small steps to hogwash is what I call it.
Listen, yeah, it's another word that we won't say on air. Starts with a B. but listen, here's the reality. And I'm gonna have Tyrone to play this video because these people think I'm absolutely out of my mind downtown because I'm not playing. This is a moral issue. For those who really claim to be Christians, you read Matthew chapter 25 and see who Jesus is going to be looking for when he comes back. If you're waiting on Jesus to come back and you don't care anything about these people, trust me, you're not waiting on them to come back. You don't understand the very peril that you're in. And so to me, the city is cursed. And I told them that. And guess what? And I told a reporter this the other day, they didn't put this on it. I told him when he called me up, I said, look, the state is cursed. As soon as the governor signed that bill to make these concentration camps, the state is cursed. Now listen, when Tyrone plays this third video, and then the one behind it, I tell him, I prophesy something. And then it happened this year. Play that video, Tyrone, please.
You're not treating the homeless as well as you should. You surely are not. For you do not know these words that do what you do unto the least of these people, you do unto me. And Christ spoke that. Let me tell you, he's not happy with Jacksonville. I said at a transportation meeting to get ready that the veil of protection from all these rivers being named is for saints around you and keeping storms off of you. I suggest to you that protection has ended. Maybe you should have cared about the homeless a little bit more.
Alvin Wellington Barlow, 625 West Union Street, Jacksonville, Florida. Simulation, a feigning to be what one is not, or dissimulation, a concealment of one's real character or motives. More generally, hypocrisy is simulation or the assuming of a false appearance of virtue or religion, a deceitful show of good character in morals or religion. That is a definition from Webster's 1828.com, my favorite dictionary. I don't like coming down here. I really don't. It's embarrassing to have to come down here and speak truth to power, but somebody has to do it. So apparently that is me today. It doesn't escape me that on Valentine's Day, which I don't recognize because it's a pagan holiday, but on that same day that you passed 2022, I think 574, 2023 114 was introduced. That's $20 million that you're getting ready to give to the University of Florida. By the way, I'm a 1983 graduate from the University of Florida. After having graduated from Raines in 1979 with honors, I'm a 1985 graduate from the University of Florida College of Law. Half a year early than the rest of my class, taking 16 hours. So I love the University of Florida. I'm a double gator. I don't love them enough to give them $20 million of my tax money before I give it to the homeless. The same day that you passed the so-called panhandling law, a bill was introduced to give the University of Florida $20 million. Now, we studied homelessness in Jacksonville from the Critical Quality of Life Issues Committee from August 17th through December the 7th of last year. That's 5 months. We still don't have any legislation about delivering homeless people from homelessness. But the University of Florida can come here and in less than 30 days get a bill that you're about to vote on tonight for $20 million. That's hypocrisy. That's what that is. Now, I'm not going to change anybody's mind about what you're going to do, but God sent me down here to show you something today. Some of y'all going to remember this conversation. You're going to remember it. You're not going to change your mind tonight. I came here to speak truth to power, but you're going to see this again. A gentleman was up here talking about scripture. I hope you listen to him. He also said some protections have been lifted from Jacksonville. He wasn't lying. You're going to see those real soon. I'm telling you, you are playing with some serious eternal fire. May the Lord God, Jesus himself, and the Holy Spirit richly add a multiplicity of blessings to the readers, the hearers, but especially the doers. I do respect you and I pray for you because you need it.
Now listen to me. Listen to me now.
Here's our Jennifer McCoy.
I said fire, right? This January, the first apartment complex that the city of Jacksonville was going to model, they had finished it. It was an incentive project. They gave them millions and millions of dollars. Some company from out of state that moved here, I think from Arkansas. That was going to be their jewel. It was over by the stadium. That sucker burned down.
With the vengeance.
Nobody was in it now. Nobody was in it. So nobody got hurt. But that's my point. I told them, listen, they were going to showcase that building. Oh, people had already rented. You know, they had paid rent to move in. It burned down a month before everybody was supposed to move in, and nobody got hurt. Nobody got killed. That's my point. I keep telling them, listen, this stuff is serious, man. And that stuff like that's going to keep happening to Jacksonville because it's not serious about homelessness. University of Florida comes in 30 days, get $20 million. We studied the homelessness problem for almost a half a year, and we still don't have anything like that. They've given to this day about $3 million towards homelessness. And
overnight, you created a bunch of homeless people with that apartment burning down.
No, hold on, Doc. That apartment, right, you're right. They did. But that was for rich people now. But those people are homeless, some of them. You're right.
Right.
You're right, Doc.
That technicality, that stuff is what I'm trying to relate to.
Right.
I'm speechless. I want to ask you, I think we had a conversation in the past, and Dr. Jones said the highest number of investor-owned property is in the 08 and 09 zip codes.
That's true.
Black folks.
That's true.
Side of town.
Yep. So is anywhere in the state of Florida doing a decent job addressing the homelessness in their city?
Yes, ma'am. Miami is doing an excellent job. Let me tell you how serious Miami is about. We studied this stuff. So that's how I know it. Miami, 10 or so years ago, maybe over a decade ago, they did a bed and booze tax just for one. I think the city of Miami only. You know, they're not consolidated like us. They got a lot of different cities. But I think the core city of Miami did a bed and booze tax. And so they created an administration and they help homeless people and they have decreased their homeless. Matter of fact, it's a national model. So we bring a representative up here. And by the way, Changing Homelessness has been trying to get the city of Jacksonville since the Alvin Brown administration to do what Miami did. Alvin Brown didn't do it. The next mayor after him didn't do it. And this one won't do it because the city council will not support that. They'll support a gas tax increase in a minute. They'll support any other kind of increase to make them look good in a minute. But these people don't have a voice. That's why I go down there and speak for them. So Miami has a good one. And also Orlando has a regional outfit that is just not Orlando, some other areas as well as Tampa's doing a good job. So there are, and we brought some people from by Zoom from Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, and one other place, I think, Minnesota, to discuss what they do. And so there are cities around the nation that are doing great. But what makes Jacksonville so unique is Jacksonville created the Downtown Investment Authority. Okay. It used to be called the Downtown Development Authority a long time ago, but it's now the Downtown Investment Authority. But I call it the Downtown Corporate Welfare Agency because this is a corporation. This is an entity that was set up by the city of Jacksonville to criminally, in my opinion, take taxpayer money and give it to rich people to get richer. I would understand it if they were giving it to middle class people to do businesses or whatever, but they're giving it to rich, and that comes from our tax dollars. And people don't complain. It just goes back to what Tyrone was saying. You know, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, when we come asking for something, oh, well, that's welfare. I know it's welfare. But if you can give $20 million to this corporation that don't need it, why can't you give $1,000 to somebody who really does need it? So Jacksonville is uniquely situated that they could end homelessness because they have a corporate welfare agency. These people are so greedy that they want. My first proposal was 3% when I asked them to do it. When they wouldn't do it, I drafted a proposal. I said, okay, I'm gonna kick it up to 5% since you're making me work hard like that. But people just don't have the political will to do what's right.
So, but Jacksonville is people in Jacksonville are so quick to boast, we're the largest city in landmass in the nation. So being the largest city in landmass in the nation, you tell me you cannot have all of these unhoused people in a home. It's just sad. So if for our viewers who are listening or watching, what would you suggest to them that they do? If people say, I've driven by down Union Street and I see those poor homeless people, what do you say? And they don't know what to do. What advice would you give them to say, tomorrow you can do X, Y, and Z?
Okay, the elephant in the room is the church. See, let me get on the church right quick. And I'm a pastor, so I got a right to do this. Listen, here's the reality of it. I'm gonna say something people don't want to hear. But the government has no business doing what we're talking about anyway. The only reason I'm on the government is because they are giving my money away to rich people to get richer. But if the church does what it's supposed to do, the government would never have an opportunity to do anything. The church is the world's welfare system. Just read Acts chapter 1, 2, 3. It's the world's welfare system. So what happens is you got a bunch of churches, listen, that's paying pastors $200,000 and $300,000. Okay? $200,000 and $300,000. I'm telling you what I know. Okay. And so they're treating them like corporate representatives. These suckers, some of them, okay, don't do funerals, okay, don't visit people at hospitals. They are preachers getting paid like a pastor, okay. And so my answer to your question succinctly is, first of all, do you go to a church, a synagogue, or a mosque? Okay, go back there and see if they have a homelessness program. If they don't, start one. Okay, because I'm telling you, listen, honestly, this is real talk. If 5% of the churches in Jacksonville got together and said, okay, this is what we're gonna do. For every dollar that comes in, we're gonna reserve 3% of that money for a homelessness fund to build, renovate, or whatever, it will be over. I'm telling you, it will be over, but they don't do it. So the church,
they're saying that they are recouping the losses that they unfortunately had during COVID.
Well, let me say it like this. Had they, sorry about that, Doc. Let me say it like this. Had they not been so fat on the cash in the first place, they wouldn't have lost anything.
Right.
I'm trying to tell you, I'm telling you what I know
now.
now.
Not only that, now I'm going to add to that, not only that, it's really suspect as to whether or not they lost anything.
Yes.
The data that I've been able to pull up is that people stayed home, sure enough, for safety, but were still giving.
They were.
The churches that did not make it, of course they failed, but these other churches we're talking about, that was not the case.
And I like your idea. I like your idea, Alvin. If you think about there, in zip code 09 alone, there are a couple of hundred churches, if not more, right? And if you think about, and we'll just say the larger
way
church,
more than that.
If they bought property, even if they bought property around the church within a 5-mile radius, let's just say that as hypothetically, and even go within their congregation, because there are probably some people in the congregation who are paycheck from being homeless, to work with them, because people bring different expertise in the church. I've always said that. Learn what the expertise of your church members are and get them to help one another, be it home repair, finances, whatever. But if there are no people who are threatening being unhoused in your church, then again, reach out in the community, because there are, and buy those properties, and don't be greedy and charge an astronomical amount of money for rent. help people get jobs, employ them. I know I was looking at a story on the East Side recently, how they are hiring some folks from the community to help build this building, this business. And that way it's a twofold thing. The people are taking pride in their community, feeling good about building a business or bringing businesses back to the East Side community. What's another example of what people can do, Alvin?
No, but let me go back to what you just said, because you hit the nail on the head. I'm communicating with someone in South Carolina, and they have a church that has a homeless ministry, and they buy homes in the neighborhood, and they put homeless people in the homes. They don't make them go to church, but they offer church, and they come because they see that these people really care about them. Okay, so they're really serving the needs of the community. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, listen to me now. They did a story on the news here at the church that a homeless person was going to. Now, the pastor didn't know he was homeless. But this guy was going to this church, singing in the choir and everything else. And then one day, somebody told the pastor that he was homeless, and then, they started helping him. But here's a homeless person. So homeless people are going to some of these churches, and some of them are not helping. Now, I know one church that lets a homeless person stay on their property, but that's all they do. But I provide the tent for him to stay in. These churches, listen, there's a video that I have a lady named Danielle. She came to me, and she said they sent her from City Rescue Mission to me to get a tent. My office is right across the street from Trinity Rescue Mission, and they send people across the street to me to get tents. That's Danielle.
Hello, my dear friends. This is Pastor Barlow, and I'm here with this nice lady. What's your name? Danielle. And Danielle just came to my law office and rang the doorbell like so many people do these days. And she was looking for somebody to give her a tent. So, Danielle, I'm just asking you to tell us how you learned about the fact that somebody's giving away tents or whatever. What happened?
CRM, the City Rescue Mission, yesterday, and the young lady there in the battery pack asked me if I had somewhere to stay, and I told her I was staying outside, and I had sleeping bag and stuff, pillows and blankets, but I had nothing to sleep inside. And she told me about Mr. Adam down here that was giving out tents to young women that he was trying to help us, so we'll have somewhere until we can get better. That's how I found out about you.
So somebody at the City Rescue Mission told you that somebody was giving out tents?
Yes, sir. And I heard it from a few other women that has got one from me.
Okay, good. Amen. Well, God bless you, sister. In the name of Jesus, I pray that God will provide some permanent housing for you. I'm going to do my very best to help in that process. And I just pray the blessings of Abraham over you, that you will prosper and be in excellent health, even as your soul prospers. And this is just a temporary thing in the name of Jesus. And I'm going to give you, here's a tent. I think that's a 3-person tent. And here is a sleeping mat so you can be comfortable. And God bless you. Okay.
You said something about the pastors. I mean, not really, in my opinion, advocating on behalf of the homeless. And let's bring it to the same discussion, those people that are starving. Those pastors, a lot of them have a parish by which the church gives them a free place to live. Okay. And so, I mean, speaking of something hypocritical, that is very hypocritical if you can't go out and use some of your own blessings to bless someone else, particularly when it's given to you like that. I know the people on this podcast, we all go to work every day and we work to provide for our families, and we bring in our monies, but we also, and I know each and every one of you guys, you also go out and you give back. Don't have to, you give back to the community in the best that you can, and we can all do better. But by the same token, at least in the church, which is what I grew up, that was supposed to be the sanctuary for people who are in dire need, in dire straits. They should be able to depend on their church to at least assist them as best the church can. and we're not doing a good job. We're not even feeding them. And there's a lot of property around the church that can be used to grow foods and things of that nature. So I just wanted to make sure we highlighted that it's hypocrisy when we can't help find places for homeless to stay, but we're being given free housing ourselves.
Well,
Yeah, I want to say,
before you get into that, because he really hit on something. I've heard through this last few minutes of discussion that we talked about the church. Let's make sure we understand who the church is. The church is the people. So the people are the ones that we're saying that are doing this. The people who go to the church are the ones who will agree to pay the pastor an exorbitant salary. They are the ones who will know a member is homeless and won't say anything. It's the same situation that I brought to you at the beginning when I said we're more upset at the fact that we have to cross paths with the homeless than we are with the folks who are not spending our money wisely in the legislation. So that the church is not this almighty, because when I won't go into the biblical, but that's my point. That's my point with regards to that. It's so busy being a church that it stops being a group of people who believe in the word.
Okay, so let me get in here. So I wear a lot of hats. This is a pastoral hat. Okay, here's the reality of it. Okay, there's the church as an organization.
Yes, sir.
There's the church as an organism. As a living, breathing organism. But the head of that organism, the speed of the leader is the speed of the gang. So the leader is supposed to be telling people to listen. You are a Christian. You are a servant of the Most High God. You don't just come in here to have a good time. Your work is out there. You come in here to get fed spiritually, but your work is out in the community. Now, if a pastor's not teaching that, that's why he's accountable to God, because it's a sin of omission. James chapter 4, verse 17, to him who knows to do good, but yet will not do it, it is sin to him. He's supposed to be telling people, look, he's supposed to be the one saying, listen, what we're going to do is we're going to take 3% of the tithes, whatever it is, that come in, we're going to direct that towards missions work. That's his job or her job, whoever leads that church. And so the people are going to follow the leader. And so it's the leader that needs to be doing this. But what you have are leaders who are driving nice cars, living in nice houses, and people who can barely pay rent are paying for these people to live like that. My situation is different, man. I'm an attorney, been running a law office since I was 27 years old, and I've always given more to the church that I pastored than they ever gave me. Amen. So my situation is completely different. But I'm telling you, you have people who are living off the backs of poor people, and they will give an account to God on Judgment Day. So going back to Jock's question, the main thing is, listen, everybody can do something. And I'm going to just be honest with you. I minister to homeless people. I saw 7 of them confess their sins and ask Jesus to save them this past Sunday on Resurrection Day. I'll be back out there this first Sunday giving them communion on the corner of Union and Jefferson. But I do see small churches come out and serve these people. I saw a couple come with their 2 children. They made 100 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and they had water and put them in a wagon. And they were going around downtown feeding homeless people, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and water. They belong to the church, but they say, listen, today we are the church. We came out here to help these people. So it's the small churches that are really coming out and making an impact in people's lives, not the bigger ones.
So if people are a part of outside of the church, if people are a part of a civic or social club, civic organization or social club, what do you suggest that they could do in order to address this issue?
Okay, let me be fair to everybody. You do have some social organizations who come out, but let me tell you the problem I personally have. But I remember one day a certain group of people came out and set up across the street from us. And so, a ministry is different than a service project. A service project, you organize, you do it, and once it's done, you forget what you did. And so these people over there, to help homeless people, but in reality, they weren't. They were over there taking pictures, they were there taking videos, they were there doing electric slide and all other kind of stuff, not understanding that you got people out here who, let me tell you something. Every year in December, Jacksonville has a vigil for homeless people who die on the street. I went to the one in 2022 and 2023. Over 40 people died on the streets of Jacksonville for homelessness, either heat stroke or hypothermia. In 2023, it was over 80 people. So the number doubled. So I see people, some of these people that I met, they're dead, and they died on the streets. So when I see people coming out there doing the electric slide, no, you didn't come out there to help homeless people. You came out there to put yourself on social media and all other kind of stuff. And God says you have your reward because you're not going to get one from him because you came out there. So people are coming out there for the wrong reasons. And I don't like that. I just personally don't like that because you don't understand the gravity of these people's plight. And you coming out there taking pictures and they tell me, hey, Pastor Barlow, they come by and film us like we animals at the zoo.
Yeah, but who educates them?
But what can they do? That's what I said. What can they do, though? What do you suggest?
Who educates them? So if you see that, a person sees that, and they're doing that, who steps to them and says, hey, there's something you missing. Let me clue you in. Let me give you a bit of a
Alvin Barlow. Alvin Barlow does that.
Let me tell you, when I'm ministering to people, okay, I'm out there giving the word of God to them, okay, and they come. God told me he walked all the way from Beach Boulevard one day, just hear me preach. I'm not gonna divert my attention from serving these people to go over there and knock somebody upside the head intellectually. I'm not going to do that. That's not my job. So what I'm saying to you is if you're 30, 40 years old and you're over there doing that, you know better. I'm going to let God deal with you.
And that's now I mean, I've been on board with everything you said up to this point. And now we've met our crossroads.
Good.
Because your assumption is that they know better. Your exact words was if they're 30-some years old, they should know better. How were they supposed to know better if everyone is too big to take the time to tell them?
Wait a minute. So you're telling me that a 30-year-old person doesn't know not to go over there and do the electric slide while you're trying to serve homeless people? You telling me that?
I just got through telling you that. Do I need to repeat myself?
Well, let me say it like this.
They should know better.
Yeah, they should know better.
Should and do.
But a lot of people should know better. I can't listen. I go downtown and tell knucklehead city councilmen and mayors they should know better. They don't know better. But they can do something about it. They can do something about it. And I told them, listen, I'm not going to change your mind. But I want you to know you are out of line. And when I'm in an environment, you're under my teaching, or you come and try to interrupt my teaching, I'll correct you in a minute. But I'm not going to leave what I'm doing to go across the street and fight with some.
I'm not saying you have to leave what you're doing.
Okay.
But there needs to be an equal opportunity where those who don't know can be taught. The expectation exceeds the tutelage from that point in their lives. There are people who have gone through life and never been taught that. I'm a Christian. I go to church, but I started going to church at the age of 52. I had never gone to church before then.
I gotta say,
the things that I saw and knew and thought I knew and how wrong they were was unbelievable.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna just be honest with you. That's not my fight.
Absolutely.
That's not my fight. I pick my poison. I pick my battle very, very carefully. I was disappointed with those people. They don't understand the gravity of what they're doing. Okay. And knowing me, I was so upset. Had I gone over there and talked to them, I'd probably be on the news. So that's not my fight. That's not my fight. I pick my battle very wisely.
Well, education is what we try to do on this podcast. That's one of the reasons we're trying to make people aware of what's going on.
Amen.
I understand what you're saying, Tyrone, in terms of educating the public. A of some members of the public being uneducated to the extent that Attorney Barlow and the rest of us on this podcast may be aware of. But I also understand, you have to pick your fights. You have to pick where to fight, where you can best succeed, where you can best help in this whole war on poverty and war on homelessness. And spending a lot of time trying to educate people, if that's not your forte, or the mechanism by which you try to do it is not something that's easily accessible to you or the people you're talking to, every opportunity you get, you should be trying to educate people and tell people about the situation of the homelessness and try to help out where you can regarding that situation. Let's remedy it together. Not sitting here and fight and point fingers at, well, we don't know, you don't know, whatever. If they don't know, as they used to say, well, I won't say what they used to say on the hood, but but you all know what I was about to say.
What I learned from this discussion is a couple of things. One is that if you are a part of any organization and you're not sure what to do, the first thing you could do is start a ministry within your faith community, a committee. If it's a non-church group, start a committee, start a ministry to address homelessness. If you don't know what to do, we go online, Alvin, and Google everything. You can look for ideas of how to help the homeless, right? We'll go on and search for a concert ticket or a pair of shoes or whatever. Also, you can personally, don't put it all just on the government. We can personally set aside 5%, 3%. Start with a 3%. 3% of my money, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. After you've paid your bills and living expenses, 3% of my money I'm going to set aside to help the homeless situation in my community, right? And then if you're a part of a group, that 3% could be donated to your group, be it your church, your ministry at church, homeless group, or either your group that you're a part of socially. And so again, if all of us do that part to start there, then to me, we can start really putting a dent in this thing. But I now have to say to you, we're at the end of our broadcast. This has been a very lively discussion. Alvin, I'm going to give you the mic first to say, what are your final thoughts that you'd like to leave with our guests on this subject? Take it away.
Okay. Since I've been helping homeless people, I have run into 4 different personalities, 4 different types of people. The first one is they care about them, okay, but not enough to help them. They really feel sorry for them, but not enough to move a dime to help them, okay. The second one feels sorry for them and will help them, okay, only to a certain extent, okay. And then the third one is they will give them literally the shirt off their back. And some of those people have been homeless, so they know how it feels. But this fourth one really gets me. They don't like them, they won't help them, and they don't want you to help them. And the only reason I can figure that out is because they don't want to feel guilty about doing something that they know that they affirmatively should be doing. The worst scenario I've seen, I want Tyrone to hear this. The worst scenario I've seen, the guy who owns Hip Hop Fish and Chicken on Main Street, he and I are Facebook friends. His name is Adam. He's from Jordan. And so his wife told him when I was helping homeless people. So she said, we need to help him help them. So he called me. He said, you and your wife, come up to my shop and we're going to make some dinners and I'll take him out with you and we'll serve. So he made 75 dinners one Saturday morning. So we hit one place near my law office and we'll get ready. We were planning on where we were going to go next. We were standing right by the red light on the sidewalk at Union and Broad. This lady drove up, stopped at the red light, opened her door, and she hollered, y'all need to be feeding them. They need a job. Now, she don't know what we were doing. She said that, slammed the door, and took off. I just started praying for that lady because I know how God works. 9 times out of 10, if she's still alive, she's probably homeless right now. That was 2 years ago. God has a way of making people understand his mercy and his grace and how we can take it for granted. So a lot of times, Tyrone, I know God is going to take care of people like that, because if I have to take care of some people like that, it will not be pretty. I'm just being honest with you. I will say the wrong thing. It will not come out the right way or whatever, because I don't like it when people bully people, especially people who cannot, protect themselves. So I don't give people like that the benefit of the doubt. But the last thing I want to say is this right here. Jacksonville passed a panhandling ordinance. It's hypocritical because they claim it was a safety issue, but they'll allow the firemen to go out there 2 times a year, collect money for the march. MDS, whatever it is, multiple
district.
It's not bad for them. Yet I found where a fireman got killed in another state doing just that, holding that boot. But they hypocritically made a law to prevent the homelessness from doing the same thing the firemen can do. So they got sued. Jacksonville is in federal court right now on a lawsuit because there's a homeless organization that sells papers, and they sued the city of Jacksonville. They're gonna lose, period, point blank. So I'm monitoring that. But hopefully, other people can just do what you can do. That's all God would have you to do. If you can only give, a sandwich, give a sandwich. If you can get a gift card, give a gift card. If you can give a tent, give a tent. Amen. Do whatever you can do, and it'll help those people out. Amen.
Speaking of which, tell our audience what your nonprofit is so that they could. Do you accept donations?
Yeah, it's Help and Housing for the Homeless. helpandhousingforthehomeless.com.
The number 4 or FOR?
FOR, Help and Housing FOR for the Homeless. If you just put Help and Housing for the Homeless in a Google search, it'll come up. And we do take tax deductible or donations, either through that or through Breakthrough Prayer Ministries. Both of those are tax exempt organizations.
And we will be listing that information on our website, Attorney Barlow. So make sure Tyrone has the accurate way of getting that too.
Okay, I'll send it to him. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the spirited conversation. Tyrone, what are your final thoughts regarding tonight's topic?
A lot was said, and I think one of the beauties of this show is that we get an opportunity to educate, and sometimes the education comes in the way through us. And so I want to say thanks to Attorney Barlow for coming on. I appreciate the conversation and the spirited passion that he has. What I want to say is that this is a recurring theme that I find so often happens in all of our shows. It boils down to us. All right. It boils down to what we're willing to accept, whether it be the politicians who are not doing their job and we don't hold them accountable, whether it be the number of times we walk by a person and our hearts are not pricked to do something. It all boils down to us. So for those who listen, for those who hear, for those who are tuning into our podcast, we ask you to do something. That's all we do. We give you information. With that information, we ask you to do something. All right. The only thing that I want to add to what has been said is whenever you're in a situation and a person, a group, an organization acts out of turn, acts out of ignorance, I was taught that it was my responsibility to call them to order. If I did not, then I would be complicit in their action. So I ask our listeners, our viewers, not to be complicit.
Thank you, Tyrone. Dr. Kane, what are your final thoughts?
I grew up in a small church. Well, we went to a small church in Boynton Beach, Florida, New Mount Zion. At the time, being small, I thought it was a big church. The thing that they did at times where they did feed people whom did not have any food, any places to go. Sometimes we have members that would take them to their household. I think what we have to realize is that if you this will not end just because Attorney Barlow wishes it to end. Even though I wish, speaking of wishes, I wish that his wish could be honored today and snap a finger and it's all over and done. It's going to take some efforts, some sacrifices from all of us if we want to make this situation of homelessness become people with homes. And that doesn't mean that we got to, that all of the relief comes from the church, or all of the relief comes from the individuals, or all of the relief comes from city officials. It means that we all should work together to end this problem of homelessness, period. You know, any day you could be homeless. I have a couple of patients that are, are homeless, but they're working every day. They work every day, but they're still homeless. Some of them living in hotel rooms. I've had them living in their cars. You know, I give what I can a lot of time. I can give more probably, you know, to many of different causes. You can never give enough, I guess, is what we can probably say. But we can make sure that we do take enough time and enough of our resources to give back in some form or fashion. You know, those same patients that don't have a place to stay, you know, I make sure whatever I can do from a medical standpoint that, you know, they don't have monies or have very limited monies, then, you know, I may not charge them anything. And this is not one of those self-promoting acts that we do, but a lot of people give wherever they can. But make sure, if nothing else, you hold your city council, your politicians' feet to the fire, because that can be the wick by which the rest of the candle burns of ending homelessness. We have to work hard at it and don't just walk around like horses with blinders on, as if you don't see those homeless people out there. Because they could be your brother, sister, mom, dad. You just don't know. You paycheck away from being homeless.
Thank you, Dr. Kane. Thank you, Tyrone, and especially thank you, Attorney Barlow. So while you all were talking, I looked up. So just in case someone is still not quite sure what they can do, and I'll share this with Tyrone to put on our website. Volunteer. Offer your time at local shelters, soup kitchens, or organizations dedicated to helping the homeless. Donate. Give to organizations like Housing for Homeless, what Attorney Barlow talked about. Advocate. Raise awareness about homelessness. Support Housing First initiative, an approach that prioritizes stable housing to homeless individuals before addressing other needs. Educate yourself. That's what we hope that you received this evening. Engage with local government. Encourage your local government to allocate resources toward homelessness prevention and support initiatives that aim to reduce homelessness in your community. Offer assistance directly. Sometimes offering food, clothing, or even a kind word can make a difference to someone experiencing homeless, and treat individuals with dignity and respect. Support employment opportunities. Partner with local businesses to provide job training, employment opportunities, and support services to homeless individuals seeking to rebuild their lives. Address systemic issues. Work towards addressing systemic issues such as inequality, discrimination, and lack of access to health care and education, which can contribute to homelessness. Engage with homeless individuals. Take the time to listen to their stories, understand their needs, and offer support in ways that empower them to regain stability and independence. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to Pause for the Truth. I hope you were inspired by tonight's discussion. Tune in next week as we engage in another conversation about a topic that's not only important to us, but also for you. Stay well and safe, and good evening.
Have you ever stopped to ponder the ripple effects of a single person's actions? How the determination and courage of a few individuals can shape the world we live in? Today, we delve into the lives of history makers, each of whom has significantly influenced our day-to-day existence. It all began with Robert C. Weaver, the first Secretary of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. He was the first black person to be appointed to a U.S. government cabinet-level position. His appointment set a precedent, breaking barriers for future generations. Then, there was Maggie Walker, a titan of industry in the early 1900s. In 1903, she founded the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank in Richmond, Virginia, becoming the first woman to charter a bank in the U.S. Her bank provided black people with affordable loans, enabling them to purchase homes and establish businesses. Thurgood Marshall, an American civil rights lawyer and the first black Supreme Court justice, was instrumental in fighting Jim Crow laws and dismantling segregation in the U.S. He argued and won 29 of the 32 cases he brought to the Supreme Court. His landmark victory in Shelley v. Kramer in 1948 struck down race-based restrictive housing covenants, helping to undo generations of residential segregation. In 1966, Senator Edward Brooke made history as the first black person elected to the U.S. Senate by popular vote. His election marked a significant step forward in the representation of black Americans in the U.S. government. Fast forward to today, and we have Marcia L. Fudge serving as the current Secretary of HUD. Secretary Fudge is committed to solving our nation's urgent housing challenges and believes communities should serve people. Alongside her, Alana McCargo, a political appointee and president of Ginnie Mae, a government lending organization, is working tirelessly to provide low-cost financing for federal housing programs. In summary, from Robert C. Weaver to Alana McCargo, each of these individuals has made a significant impact on our lives. They challenged the status quo, broke barriers, and paved the way for future generations. Their stories serve as a testament to the power of determination, courage, and perseverance in shaping the world we live in.